In this online lecture, we will discuss about the release pattern of the steroidal hormones, that how steroidal hormones level is maintained in the blood. This pathway is only and only for the release of estrogens and androgens, and this pathway is for all the steroidal hormones. So what happens in this case, it is the hypothalamus that detects the concentration of steroidal hormones in the blood. If the concentration is low, the hypothalamus causes the release of CRH, which is corticotropic releasing hormone, and this CRH further acts on the anterior pituitary gland and causes the release of ACTH, and ACTH then sends signals to the adrenal gland where it causes the release of these steroidal hormones. If the level reaches up to normal physiological level, then what happens that the concentration of these steroidal hormones in the blood is detected to the hypothalamus, and it stops the release of CRH and hence ACTH and hence the steroidal hormones. In this very particular case you see here, as androgen is also synthesized in the adrenal cortex, so in this case only and only androgen and estrogen are synthesized. As these are also steroidal hormones, so also I discussed the pathway for the estrogens and androgen release in case of those androgens and estrogens which are synthesized other than the adrenal cortex. So in this case, the hypothalamus detects the concentration of these steroidal hormones, which are androgen and estrogens. Hypothalamus causes the release of GnRH if the concentration of those both hormones are low. So the GnRH, which is the gonadotropic releasing hormone, causes the anterior pituitary gland to secrete the LH and FSH, and it is the luteinizing hormone and follicle stimulating hormone that causes the release of female hormone like estradiol and progesterone in the ovaries, and the LH and FSH causes the testes in case of male to secrete the testosterone. And when the level of these hormones reaches up to normal level, its level is detected by the hypothalamus, and it causes the hypothalamus to stop the GnRH and hence the release of these hormones and hence the release of estradiols and testosterones. So this is the release pattern for the steroidal hormone. Now here also you see hypothalamus causes the release of CRH. CRH then acts on the anterior pituitary gland to secrete ACTH, and ACTH causes the release of glucocorticoids like steroidal hormones, and these hormones are secreted by the adrenal cortex in response to ACTH. So this is the release pattern, that how the level of steroidal hormone is maintained in the blood. Now, what is the biological role of the steroidal hormones like estrogens, androgens, glucocorticoids, and mineralocorticoids? As far as estrogen is concerned, its role in female is quite clear. But what is the role of estrogen in male? There are certain functions that are performed by the estrogens in male. One of the common most estrogen is the estradiol, and it plays a very critical role in male sexual functions, like it modulates the libido, means it changes its concentration, changes the libido, which is the sexual drive, and erectile functions, and spermatogenesis, synthesis of the sperm. So these are the certain functions of the estrogens in male, where estrogen is required for these functions to be done. Now, what is the role of adrenal androgen in female? As far as estrogen is concerned, estrogen role is quite clear, but what is the role of androgen? And also the role of androgen in male is quite clear, but what is the role of androgen in female? This is a question mark. So there are certain functions that are performed by the androgens in female, like growth of the pubic and axillary hairs, and pubertal growth spurt, and development and maintenance of the female sex drive. So it is the androgen that gives an ignition to the start of the to the female secondary sexual characteristics. And then we have certain metabolic effects of the estrogens, androgens on the regulation of lipids, glucose, cholesterol in the liver. These are the effects of estrogen in the liver, and these are the effects of androgen, that are certain metabolic reactions which are done in the liver. So what the estrogen does, this shows the increase effect and this shows the decrease effect. Estrogen does certain reactions like lipolysis. It increases the lipolysis, it increases the insulin clearance, it increases the glycogen storage, it increases the cholesterol removal. And here in this case, it decreases the lipogenesis. If it increases the lipolysis, means lipid breakdown, so it will decrease the lipogenesis, synthesis of the lipid. Also, lipid uptake and gluconeogenesis and cholesterol synthesis, these processes are basically decreased. And in case of androgen, what happens that it increases the insulin receptor. It increases the number of insulin receptors and glycogen synthesis, cholesterol uptake, and cholesterol synthesis. Basically, these processes are enhanced by the androgens, while lipogenesis, glucose uptake, and cholesterol removal, these processes are reduced by the androgens in the liver. Now, what is the role of glucocorticoids? Glucocorticoids has diverse functions in the human body. Certain functions of the glucocorticoids like cortisol are mentioned below, which is one of the effects is the glucose sparing effect. It causes the sparing of the glucose, means it withdraws glucose from each and every source and increases the concentration of the plasma blood glucose level, means that it spares glucose. And for what purpose it spares glucose? It spares glucose only and only for the CNS, central nervous system, for the brain. It is because that glucocorticoids are the hormones that are released in the stressful conditions like fear, fight and fright. Also, the cortisol hormone is also known as sad hormone. Means कि ये जो हार्मोन है ये परेशानी की, when a man gets worries and when he gets tension, so the level of cortisol raises in the body. इसका मतलब ये है कि ये जो हार्मोन है ये एक गमगीन हार्मोन है, ठीक है। ये आपको जब आप दुखी होते हैं, आप टेंस होते हैं, तो इस हार्मोन का रिलीज़ होता है, और इसलिए ये जो हार्मोन है ये आपका ब्लड ग्लूकोज लेवल इंक्रीज़ करता है, क्योंकि इंसान जब टेंशन में होता है तब उसके ब्रेन को ज़्यादा एनर्जी की ज़रूरत होती है। तो it is clear that more than 50% of the total glucose is already utilized by the brain. आम हालात में 50% ग्लूकोज जब ब्रेन इस्तेमाल करता है, तो इस तरह के हालात में जब टेंस हो इंसान, वो जो है वो टेंशन में हो, तो उसको ज़्यादा, उसके ब्रेन को ज़्यादा ज़रूरत हुई ग्लूकोज की, तो वो क्या करता है, वो बेसिकली प्लाज्मा ग्लूकोज लेवल इंक्रीज़ करता है बाय एनी मीन, और वो क्या करता है कि वो सीएनएस के लिए ग्लूकोज प्रोवाइड करता है नॉन स्टॉप. सो it causes the gluconeogenesis, means it synthesizes the glucose from the proteins and lipids, other substances other than glycogen. It synthesizes the glucose and the glycogen formation in the liver, and hence it also causes the fatty acid release for energy from the adipocytes, means it releases the fatty acid for the energy purposes from the adipocytes, means it doesn't utilizes the already present glucose in the blood, so as to increase the concentration of the glucose in the blood. Also it inhibits the absorption of glucose in the skeletal muscles, means skeletal muscles में ग्लूकोज के absorption को ये कम करता है और उसी ग्लूकोज को प्रोवाइड करता है ब्रेन के लिए. And then we have it inhibits the insulin secretion, means के insulin secretion inhibit करता है. Why? Because insulin decreases the concentration, so it inhibits the insulin secretion and increase the glucagon. So the cortisol or the glucocorticoids have glucagonic effect, means that it will increase the concentration of the blood glucose and results in short term increase in the serum glucose level for use by the brain. So these are certain effects on cortisol and the liver, skeletal muscles, fats, and pancreas, which I have already discussed. These are the processes that I have already discussed. In liver, it promotes gluconeogenesis, increase glycogen storage, and secondly, then we have the glucocorticoids that they have anti-inflammatory effects. It fights against the inflammatory substances or the inflammation. So how it causes anti-inflammatory effect? It causes the inhibition and expression of the inflammatory genes, means it blocks those genes which are involved in the synthesis of the inflammatory substances. So there will be no inflammation if the inflammatory substances synthesis is blocked. And secondly, it reduces cytokines and cell adhesion molecules. Cytokines are the inflammatory substances. So what the glucocorticoid does, it does is the cytokines not to adhere with the cell surface so as to stop the ultimate effect of the cytokines. So these are the two mechanisms by which the glucocorticoids like cortisol shows its anti-inflammatory effects. And it should be noted that there is a balance between the inflammatory and anti-inflammatory substances in our body, means that the inflammatory substances are also synthesized and anti-inflammatory are also synthesized, and there is a balance. If this balance disturbs and the effect of inflammatory substances enhances, then the body is unable to cope up with the situation. So then we need to have certain glucocorticoids from the outer source in the form of drugs. Then we have mineralocorticoids, and mineralocorticoids, they are the substances basically that keeps the level of the minerals. So therefore they are named as mineralocorticoids. Electrolyte balance and blood pressure, and one of the prominent mineralocorticoid is the aldosterone. It basically maintains the blood pressure and minerals balance of the blood. So here is the pathway which shows the release of aldosterone, that how the aldosterone is released. Apart from that pathway which I have earlier discussed, there is another pathway for the release of aldosterone, and this pathway is I'm going to explain it. First of all, what happens when there is low blood pressure or low electrolyte balance, low sodium concentration in the blood? So these are basically the stimulus for the release of aldosterone: low blood pressure and low sodium concentration. So what happens? It causes the release of renin in the kidney. When there is low blood pressure and low sodium in the blood, it causes the release of renin in the kidney. And renin, then what renin causes? Renin causes the conversion of angiotensinogen into angiotensin 1, and this angiotensin 1 is converted into angiotensin 2, which is a powerful vasoconstrictor. This substance is powerful vasoconstrictor, and here an enzyme is involved, which is angiotensin converting enzyme. This is also a very powerful vasoconstrictor, and also it causes the adrenal gland to secrete the aldosterone. So when there is constriction of the capillaries and arteries, and side by side to the constriction, it causes the release of aldosterone, and aldosterone also causes the reduction in the loss of water and sodium. So if the sodium and water loss is decreased, then there will be increased concentration of sodium and water in the blood, in the fluid. So this will cause the increase in ESF volume, and hence the blood volume will the fluid volume will increase, and this will cause increase in the this will cause increase in the blood pressure, and also this will maintain the concentration of sodium. Then there will be no loss of the sodium from the blood through kidneys. So this is a mechanism which basically is adapted for the release of aldosterone and for the counteracting the effects the low blood pressure state and the low sodium concentration in the blood. So these are certain biological effects of the steroidal hormones that which we have discussed. After this, we will study about the eicosanoids, which are fatty acid derivatives, in the next lecture, inshallah.